welcome to the Intuitively Wild podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Levine. Living intuitively wild is about coming back home to ourselves. Here, we talk about how to live connected to ourselves, others, and nature, and make a commitment to radical authenticity, vulnerability, and acceptance. On this podcast, we delve into a wide range of topics that span the human experience. We peel back the layers and talk about the things that are often not talked about. This is a space for us all to walk and wander this path of life together. Let's dig into our roots and go deep. Hi, Daddy.
Hey, sweetie.
Welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here.
Mom has been on several times. I've had people ask when you're coming on, so here's your debut.
Here I am.
Yeah, it's funny because I had a friend recently ask me if we were close because she doesn't see you on social media as much as Mom. Don't really know why that is. Mom just she likes it.
I didn't know Mom was on social media.
Well, I put her pictures.
Okay, fair enough.
In that way. I'm talking specifically about my social media.
Oh yeah, you okay? Fair enough.
Okay. Anyway, let's get into the first question. What is something you think people don't know about you that you wish they did?
Well, I actually have a great many interests. A lot of people think I'm just all about politics and baseball, but I very much like Broadway shows. I love history. Love to hear about people. I love people. I love to talk to people. We always have this joke, I make friends everywhere I go, even if it includes offending people.
Yes.
But I just like to engage with people.
Yeah.
Particularly people I don't know, because the people I know sometimes I don't like and I don't want to engage with them. But I just generally like to be with people and around people, but then there are moments where I just want to be left alone.
Yes. Well, that's because you're a 2-4 in human design. It makes a lot of sense. Actually, our human design charts are very compatible in a lot of ways, and learning about the ways in which they support each other has been really interesting to me. But because apparently 2-4s and 5-1s are the most compatible profiles.
As long as it isn't math, it's just fine.
Yeah, no math, never any math. Yeah, I think it is easy for us to make blanket statements about people. And I think especially because you are public and loud in certain ways about the things you are passionate about in certain realms, and then other things are more just for the people that you are close to. So most of the world sees the things that you're passionate and loud about.
Yeah, some things I'm very private about that
Yeah.
I only share with a very small group of people.
Yeah, exactly. So, interesting. Okay. I mean, I knew all of that about you, but
Now the world
knows. Okay, so one of the main topics I wanted to talk to you about was how our relationship has deepened through my healing and mental health journey. And as I was sharing with you before we recorded, I had the experience, I'm interested to hear your experience, where we've always had this close daddy-daughter bond. Like that definitely feels true to me for us. But there were things that I didn't feel like we were able to talk about, or it was okay to talk about, not just with you, with life in general, but I think especially there were more emotional aspects that I only talked to Mom about. And then when I first went to treatment, this is a long story, so I'll fast forward, but when I was first getting sent to treatment, usually that is something that would have been a discussion primarily with Mom, and there were decisions being made that Mom would usually take the lead on, but she wasn't available at that moment, and so you had to step in. And I feel like that potentially opened your eyes and also the door for us to be forced to talk about more things. And then through my healing journey, I started to learn how important it was for me to be open and to talk about things and not sweep things under the rug, and that I wanted to do that with you even if it was challenging. And so we started to navigate that, but I think that moment was like the first step in that. So I'm curious your experience of that and anything that comes up for you around that.
Well, at that moment in time, I had to rise to the occasion because this was about you. And what my feelings were, my view of the world were, really became secondary or tertiary in terms of importance, because the decisions that we were going to make had to be what was best for you. So I had to be able to kind of come out of my normal thinking. So it forced me to view the issue differently, and I hope I made the right decision and the right choices. I think I did. And over time, I mean, I agree with you, that was a catalyst for my willingness or desire to want to think of things from a different perspective than I had traditionally done it, because you were the priority. And if I was going to make you the priority, I had to be able to view things and approach problems and solutions to those problems differently. And I had to learn a lot so I can make informed decisions, because many of the issues you were confronting I had no clue about. I mean, it was completely alien to me. So I was left with the choice of remaining ignorant about them and making bad decisions or uninformed decisions, or learning about them and making informed decisions. Whether they were the right decisions or right advice, that's something else. But I'm comfortable being able to say I think they were informed and that they were my best advice, as good or bad as it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, ultimately, I think you made the right decisions. And also, I think in that moment, it was kind of the only decision at the end of the day.
Oh, I think that's right.
Yeah. And I have been really grateful for the way you have decided to be open. And there are certain ways, and this is honestly one where we're kind of similar, where we can be very, well, sometimes you can be very fixed on what you believe and just like very steadfast in that, and stubborn, which is what I was going to say is one way we're similar. We can be kind of stubborn when we set our mind to something, but I've been very grateful for the way you've chosen to be more open-minded and to know that you don't know, and are willing to learn and be open to that. Has that felt challenging to you?
At first it was, but because you're my priority, it wasn't hard. Something I wanted to do so I could be helpful. If I'm going to be your dad, I want to be the best dad I can be, and I can only be the best dad I can be if I learn more things, so I can give you hopefully the proper guidance and the proper help, or whatever it were, or to be able to be wise enough to step back. So it's not a challenge to want to do it. We just sometimes disagree on things, but that's human to human. Mm-hmm. We can deal with the same set of facts and reach different conclusions. That's fine. But I think we're generally pretty good at, talking them through and figuring out where we end up.
Yeah. Well, because one reason I am so grateful for the way you've shown up is because I've been able to be privy to other families and how they've approached similar situations, especially fathers. And it's honestly it's rare.
Look, there's only one non-negotiable for me. You have to root for the Mets and not the Yankees. Yeah. Other than that, anything's open for discussion.
Well, yes, and it used to be my tattoos too, but that's still something.
Oh yeah, I remain unthrilled about those.
That's actually, I feel like that's one of the topics. I think really the only topic I can think of that you won't talk to me about. It is
because there would be no meeting of the minds on those.
Yes.
I just don't agree.
Yeah.
So you're a grown woman. I mean, what can I say? So yeah. You know my view, so there's really no reason to solicit it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's one of those things we agree to disagree and keep it at that.
Exactly.
But I think I have challenged you to grow in the sense that I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you grew up in a family where topics such as mental health, anxiety were things that you talked about openly.
That's generally true. I think the only exception to that may have been, but it was limited. My grandmother, my father's mother, had serious depression issues. And she was getting treatment. And I remember there were some discussions about that. It was more that I overheard them, or no one was soliciting my advice. I was very young. But for the most part, I think that's true, because in that generation, if you had a cold or pneumonia or tuberculosis, God forbid, those are medical treatments that needed to go to the doctor, get them treated. This is what's going to happen. Mental illness was something you just kind of kept quiet, keep under the rug. It had to be discussed. So I think that was more generational, and I think it's born of ignorance. I think it's important that people be able to talk about it, but like any health issue, people are also entitled to their privacy. So.
Oh, absolutely. But I guess I should start with the question of what do you feel like your experience has been like with your mental health?
I'm pretty happy with my mental health. I do occasionally, big things, big problems, and big issues, I'm very good at. We have to deal with this. This is a big problem. This is how we're going to deal with it. And step at a time, logically approach it. And even if there are multiple issues, I can deal with those. It's little stuff that makes me crazy. Like the Wi-Fi isn't working. Or I can't seem to get this door unlocked. That stuff just sets me off. And I'm sure it's in large part because I just kind of keep some stuff in, and then all of a sudden it just explodes. But the really big stuff, the really big serious issues, I think I'm really good at. It's the small little minutiae stuff that I shouldn't care about that makes me go crazy. And sitting in traffic. I cannot stand sitting in traffic.
Well, it's interesting. You made it. Well, my dad's an Aries. Also, in human design, you're emotional authority, and specifically, there are different types of emotional authorities you can be, and yours is specifically about, like, it's called the build-up wave. So it's like things just pile on, and you feel like you're cool, calm, and collected, and all of a sudden it just like releases. And I do feel like that. I mean, nothing crazy or extreme, but I do feel like that happens to you. And so I think it's important to have awareness around that, because then you can say to yourself and to other people, I know I'm overreacting. I just need to like let it out and do that in a healthy, contained way, but not then let it spill over and continue to spill over onto other people. Because
anyone who you're a victim of it is it's your mother.
Yes.
She gets the unvarnished version of all this to the extent, and occasionally something will happen at work, and I'll just kind of lose it. It's rare and it's far in between, I'd like to think, but again, it's over minor little garbage that makes me crazy.
Circling back to something like to the kind of the realm of the tattoo situation, I feel that a lot of the choices I've made in my life you haven't understood at first or ever, but for the most part you've really supported me, and that support has only grown over time. And sometimes I do like sit in awe of like how much you've supported me and championed me. And of course mom does too in unexplainable amounts, but I feel like with you it's even different because it's not that mom does it with like a blind love, but
it comes more naturally to you.
Yeah. And I feel like with you it's even like you thought it's even more intentional, because like you would tell me if you didn't. Yes. In a certain way, in a way.
Yeah.
And so I'm just.
And I have.
Yeah, and you have, absolutely. And we've talked about that. So I guess there are different paths to this in this question. My first question is, when you think back, what did you foresee me doing with my life? And when did you realize that was not what I was going to do? Or just in general, that I was going to be doing something that maybe was not what you were comfortable with. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if not comfortable. I'm personally comfortable with doing it. I think traditional is the word. I mean, I think basically up until the sophomore, junior year of college, I still had all these visions that you would be, doing quote unquote traditional mainstream things, whatever they were. Thank God you didn't become a lawyer.
I never was going to be.
I understand. But, what would be viewed as the traditional approach to life: graduate from college, get a job in the city, or go to graduate school, meet some guy, get married, and have kids, and just lead a traditional life. By the time of sophomore, junior year of college, I realized that wasn't happening, and I was left trying to figure out what the hell was going on. And I don't think it all clicked for me until going back to what we were talking about before, until kind of the treatment issue popped up. Even though I knew you were going to be taking a different path, I don't think I fully appreciated the hurdles you're going to have to overcome to achieve whatever it is you wanted to achieve. And I'm just so proud of how far you've come in that regard. I mean, you're on the cusp of, I believe you're on the cusp of greatness, of doing the stuff you really want to do. And greatness is defined in many ways, and one is setting a goal and achieving it. And I think you're right on the threshold of that, and I think that's fabulous.
Thanks, Teddy. Yeah, because for context, sophomore year of college was kind of when I was like, I want to drop out of school and travel and teach yoga.
Yeah, that wasn't happening.
And my dad was like, absolutely not, which I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I stayed in college.
Yeah, we wanted to do all these wonderful things, finish college, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, and you supported me in going to Hawaii after I graduated, and before that, doing my first teacher training.
Your mom was more understanding about you going to Hawaii than I was.
Yes. Without mom,
without mom, that wouldn't have happened.
There's a lot that wouldn't have happened.
There was an evolution of my process.
Yes.
I was not in favor of you going to Hawaii originally.
Yeah. But one thing I will say is that it's definitely been a process, and I think that each step has also allowed you to see more of me, and me staying determined and like, no, I really believe I need to do this, and us being able to get there. I think in the end, ultimately, with many things, you've been able to see why. Or even like now, it makes more sense looking back. Like you see how it will support me now.
Yeah, well, I mean, one way to look at what you're doing, and this is my view of it, you're an entrepreneur. You're going to start a business. There are countless businesses that people have started that no one ever thought could support a business, right? Mm-hmm. Apple, Google. I mean, who ever heard of these things? But somebody went into a garage and they started a business. So I view you as an entrepreneur starting a business. It's well thought out. It's not some scattershot approach. It's focused and measured. And if I'm going to invest, whether emotionally or financially, in some stranger's business, why wouldn't I do it for my daughter's business? So I'm happy to do it as long as it makes economic sense. It makes financial sense. I'm not just going to fritter away money because you just think it'd be fun. Maybe I hope it is fun, but it's a well thought out business model, business plan with specific goals and a well designed, what I think will be a very successful product.
I don't think I've ever done anything just because I thought it would be fun.
That's unfortunate. I like to do things just because.
I guess smaller.
You're going to go to the Met game. You're doing that just because that's going to be fun. That's going to be lots of fun.
I think I mean bigger things.
Right.
Like maybe on the surface it will seem like, oh, moving to Hawaii is just something willy-nilly that I want to do just for fun. But it's like that
was my thought process when you were originally broaching that to me. This makes zero sense to me.
Yes, and I think it took you a while, and I do everything I always have, really, so it would make sense now. It's become like such a pillar of my business, but like with intention and because of my intuition. I didn't just like wake up and choose Hawaii randomly on the map. It's something I can't explain. I just follow my intuition. And I understand why logically, for someone who's more factual or doesn't have that way of directing their life, that might seem the translation of that might seem like, oh, I just want to, or like, oh, it just seems fun. But for me, it's never felt that way.
Yeah, I mean, my original view of you going to Hawaii was you just wanted to put off reality, and what the hell? I didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Circling back to what you were saying around it didn't fully hit you until I went to treatment, that actually surprised me. I thought you were going to say when I left Hawaii and was going to yoga therapy school. I feel like that for me was when you kind of like, well, that felt like something you were more comfortable with because it felt more tangible and like.
No, I was very comfortable with that, but when I say the treatment, it was taking me out of my space and my head and saying, okay, you have to stop looking at it from strictly your perspective. You have to understand it from Rachel's perspective and what's best for her and how we're going to get there. That's the distinction, I think.
That is interesting because I do think that no, even myself, like no one was really, even though I was trying to grapple with it and understand it, like could really, you definitely didn't have the awareness yet of like the anxiety I navigated on a daily basis, or like
I had no idea
how that impacted how I showed up in the world, and also how that was impacting how I wanted to construct my life, because a traditional way of doing life I wouldn't fit it. Are there certain ways that you feel like you show up differently, either specifically in a relationship or just life in general, because of like my recovery and my treatment?
Well, I think I'm more sensitive to mental health issues. That's really the only way. I mean, it's that, prior to that, I wouldn't say I was as bad as my parents in that generation where it's just under the rug, but it's still, I don't think I fully appreciated the idea that it cuts across all ethnicities, all social classes, all gender. I don't think I fully appreciated that until we had to deal with it.
Another way you've supported me is by showing up to a lot of the things that I offer and being the first person that I do a tea ceremony with, along with Mom, and you've come to my first yoga classes when I first started. And I, again, am very grateful for that. But I'm curious your experience with that, anything you want to share around that, because I don't think that they were always things that you were naturally inclined to. And something that I believe really strongly is that, people can place some of these health and wellness, spirituality tools into a certain box and say they're for those people, or like mindfulness tools. And I really believe that they're for everyone, even people who, aren't naturally inclined to them all the time. So I'm curious what your experience has been like with that, and if they've supported you in any way.
I always get something out of your ceremonies. In candor, if it was anybody else, I wouldn't go.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't view it necessarily as I need to drink tea.
Yeah.
I view it as I'm going to support my daughter. Right? I'm going to, growing up, my father never missed a football game I played, to every sporting event he possibly could, or anything I was involved in. My mother as well, to a lesser extent, and I always loved that. So I just assumed, since that was so important to me when I was doing stuff, I was dedicated to, or determined that I would do that with my kids. So whether it was you or your two brothers, I always try to go to and support everything you do that I can get to, and what could be more important than your business and your passion. So I go, but there's no question that I wouldn't go to anybody else's tea ceremony.
No. And I would be offended if you did. Unless it was with me.
I have tea ceremonies with your mother every night. We have, what tea do you want tonight before we go to bed? So.
Yeah. That makes me think of another question. When you were becoming a dad, were there promises you made to yourself or values that you established that were really important to you, along with showing up for certain things?
I was determined to be able to provide for my family, and I don't even think I necessarily thought about these things. I think they're just kind of how I led my life. I was going to be present. Mm-hmm. Well, I tried to be present.
Yeah. Well, because, and we've talked about how when you started your own law firm, that allowed you more freedom to be present. And so was that part of your decision
Absolutely.
To do that?
Yeah. I left a big law firm where I worked, regardless of where you were in the pecking order, on some level you always worked for somebody else with certain expectations. If I have my own place, I can create whatever my own expectations for myself. Mm-hmm. And I was determined to get to your brother's track meets or your brother's baseball games or to your dances or soccer games or to your tea ceremonies. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that was not an insignificant factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like you being an entrepreneur and you having navigate certain aspects of business has been really supportive for me. And I feel like often sometimes, I find this in a lot of my most intimate relationships, how we're navigating similar things in different ways at the same time. And I feel like that's happening kind of with us. We're both navigating following dreams that feel new and uncertain and scary. So I'm curious if you feel like there's a way you could categorize the phase of life you're in, or just any intentions or hopes that you have for your current chapter of life.
Well, I think I am in somewhat of a transition stage. Because I've been practicing law for almost 40 years now. I'm officially tired of it. But I have started a lobbying practice. Federal lobbying practice brings me down to Washington a lot. And I really love that work. It's a lot of fun. It's a passion of mine. Politics is a passion. And here's an opportunity to be able to monetize my relationships with people in government for clients whose causes and businesses I believe in. I won't just represent just anyone. I have to agree with them. So I can see over in the not too distant future, transitioning out of law into the lobbying. Right now I'm doing both. It's been a nice balance, but I confess I enjoy the lobbying significantly more than the practice of law. I've grown a very healthy contempt for judges. But I think it's time to make some changes. I can't just retire. I like to be busy. I like to do stuff. So I need my mind to be working and processing and thinking. And I think the lobbying will probably be a pretty good segue, because I can do that as much or as little as I want. I don't necessarily have to be in a particular spot to do that. The law firm, I have to be in the office. And there's also the responsibility of having business and work for people to do, because some people I work with I've been working with for over 30 years, not just people I work with, they're friends. Many of them are as close as family. I know all kinds of things about them, their personal lives and whatnot. So I take a keen interest in making sure that everybody's doing okay, and I view it as part of my job in running the law firm, of making sure people have stuff to do. So it's I won't miss that. It's getting harder and harder. But it is what it is.
And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we had a conversation once where you were saying how if you had the opportunity, when you were growing up, it was very common, the options felt limited to what you could pursue. And I feel like one reason you support me doing something different is because you see how the options aren't, like, you wish that you had had more, you had been able to choose something different. Is that?
Well, it's more that it's partially, and I also wish I had a little more courage. So after I graduated when I was growing up, there was the general expectation you would be a doctor or a lawyer, and if you were a dull person, you'd become an accountant. So I went to college, and then after I graduated from college, I had a unique opportunity to go to get a master's degree in England in Middle Eastern politics. And then after that was over, I had a decision to make whether to get a PhD in Middle Eastern politics or to go to law school. First, the idea that those are the only two choices I had in and of itself just tells you how limited I was in my thinking. But then once I limited it to those two, I defaulted to going to law school because it was a more traditional and easier path to making a living. If I had a little more courage and a little more imagination, I might have gone and gotten my PhD. Look, would my life have been different? Probably, but it's not like I'm looking back and say, my life's a failure. I'm pretty happy with what I've accomplished. And full circle, my interest in the Middle East has never gone away, and it's in large part been a part of my ability to be able to get into the lobbying, because that aspect of my life, which I think I'm pretty knowledgeable about, and I speak about, and I have a pretty good high profile platform from that, have exposed me to people who need the lobbying work. So it's funny how things work out.
Yes, it always works out.
Doesn't always, but in this case, I think
I feel that if we are trusting ourselves to some capacity, things build on each other, and it's never too late to shift directions and kind of let them and let it compound, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess on that note, do you feel like you have a connection to your intuition that you turn to on a regular basis at all?
Yeah. I'm out in the political world, and sometimes I have to make decisions about, do I want to say this? If I do say this, how will it impact people? How will it come back and impact me? Is it the smartest thing to say? There's some of that. So I trust my tuition on that. Some people say, don't do that, don't talk about that. I'm talking about it, and I'll do it. And sometimes people say, you got to talk about this. I say, that's okay, I'll give it a miss. So that's based strictly on my intuition.
Living intuitively wild means living dedicated to your true, authentic self, no matter what. How do you feel like you live intuitively wild?
Well, that's interesting, I guess. When I was growing up, my dad would always say to me, lead your life in such a way that when you wake up in the morning, you can look at yourself in the mirror and like what you see. And so I've always tried to lead my life in a way that I don't embarrass myself or my family. I can always justify and be proud of what I've done. Live my life with integrity and courage.
Thank you so much, Daddy.
Thank you.
I love you.
Love you.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I hope it helped deepen your connection to yourself, sparked some insights, and inspired you to live intuitively wild. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would share it with others and leave a rating and review. And please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you. I will see you next time for more magic.